Hello Internet, my name is Ren. This is Rants, a channel where I rant about things that I care about. In this video we're going to talk about Avengers Infinity War. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, but you can think of it as part one because I will be making a spoilery review as well, where I do talk about some more specific things that I thought about this movie. So if you want a more in-depth look at the movie as a whole, stay tuned for that. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the movie more generally. No spoilers. If you haven't seen the film, it is totally safe to watch this review. Okay, so I saw this movie on Sunday of opening weekend, and I didn't actually have any intention of seeing this movie initially, but a bunch of my friends were going, and while I'm not the biggest fan of superhero movies, it seemed like a fun thing to do, so I went along. And this movie was pretty much everything that I expected it would be, but not to the degree that I thought it would be. And what I mean by that is superhero movies, especially more recent ones, tend to have a lot of the same problems. They usually have way too many characters and not enough time to really dig in and get in depth with any of those individual characters. They rely on you having either a lot of knowledge of the comics or a lot of knowledge from previous movies a lot of the time, and they tend to have a lot of plot just built around big action set pieces, which tends to make the plots gargantuan and meandering, and there is so much suspension of disbelief required. They tend to be so over the top, it's just really hard for me to find them really engaging on any kind of more in-depth emotional level, because there's just this lack of realism to most superhero movies, which obviously makes sense. They're superhero movies, they're based on comic books, of course they're cheesy. It's fine. I know exactly what they are and I enjoy them for what they are, so I'm not like mad at them or anything. I just don't usually gravitate towards those kinds of movies. So this movie did have a lot of those problems. It is a sprawling, enormous film with a lot of characters from different Marvel properties coming together, and the context of them coming together makes sense. I would actually say this movie does a pretty decent job with the exposition overall, which I was kind of impressed with, because they had so much that they tried to put into this movie that I think they did an okay job of really getting the storytelling together. I think there were definitely some weak points where we just didn't have enough time and some weird inconsistencies, and the overall themes of this movie are very questionable, but I'm going to talk about that more in part two. So I think that there were some issues with this movie for sure, and they were kind of the issues that I expected, but I would say this movie did have a lot more human moments too than I was anticipating. And while sometimes they were kind of undercut by the silliness or inconsistency of this movie, I thought that they were still really good. There were definitely some scenes where you feel some feels, and there are some pretty quiet moments that I was surprised at how much this movie did actually let itself breathe. On the other hand, it was a very long film. I think they could definitely have trimmed it down a bit here and there. I think they could have pulled certain characters together earlier in the story and saved us a little bit of time, because it feels very splintered throughout the movie and then very rushed towards the end, at least to me. So I think that that was some of what made the movie have the issues that I anticipated, but it definitely was better than I thought it would be. I think that Thanos is a really effective villain. He's really fun to watch. Not so sure about that planos he has there going on, though. It's not a good plan at all, and it doesn't make much sense. But he's committed. He is committed to that plan. I will give him that, and I think the level to which he is committed to his deluded plan is part of what makes him work so well. So there are definitely a lot of strengths to this movie, a lot of questionable decisions in this movie. If you are a big fan of superhero movies, and if you're a big fan of Marvel, I think you'll really, really like this movie. It has everything you come to know and love about these superhero movies, all the characters you know and love, back again, fighting evil and whatnot. and it's got lots of different beautiful set pieces, some nice moments between characters, and it's got some good storytelling. The writing in this movie is decent. I wouldn't say it's amazing, but I'd say it's pretty good. If you're not a big fan of superhero movies, I think it really just depends on what you like about movies, whether or not you'll really enjoy this movie. It's definitely long, so, prepare to sit down for a long time. But it's pretty fun. It's got a lot going on. And I will say, I have not watched all of the Marvel movies personally. I just haven't gotten around to it, I'll watch them if they're on or if my friends are going, but it's pretty low priority for me. So I will say that they did do a really good job of telling the story in a cogent way where even if you have not seen a lot of the Marvel movies, you'll still easily be able to follow the plot and care about the characters to an extent, which I think is impressive with a movie this big. I think they did a good job, and I think there was definitely some love put into this movie, so it's worth a watch in my opinion, but it's not one of those where I'd say you have to see it in theaters. So that is everything that I can say without spoiling this movie. Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below, but shh, no spoilers. Save those for part 2. See you next time. Wiedersehen.